All right. Well, I had Luke out here today. I wanted to also talk about the lineup putters you had. That was the Stroke Lab black putters, right?
Yes.
And these came out, actually they came out a little bit before
Yep.
the triple track putters.
Two of the models have. We had our Bird of Prey and then this number 10, which has been an extremely popular model for us. So two very high MOI mallets kind of led the way for this.
In fact, I remember calling you on the phone, or I was talking to one of you guys, and you said we have this new putter, and I turned on TV, and they already had it on the tour.
It was, yeah.
Whatever there it was, yeah.
It's been super popular on tour. It's our most popular model on tour already. It was the #1 model in play last week in Europe, so it's off to a great start. Really
Talk
exciting.
about it a bit. Why did you? So this is a little bit changed. It's a Stroke Lab putter again.
Stroke Lab shaft.
So what was the change versus last year's Stroke Lab? What was the change?
So this was really led by feedback from tour players. Okay. So the biggest, most noticeable difference is the all black finish. So where the original Stroke Lab had a silver sort of top line or front part and a black back section, this one is a black PVD, so it's got a very rich premium look. Okay. Some tour players love the contrast of the original Stroke Lab. It's kind of like our old Versa models. Some players, it really helps them with their alignment. Right. Some players just want something a little less busy, something a little cleaner to look at. So that was one thing we wanted to do for them. And then the new insert, the micro hinge star, also driven by tour feedback. So they were looking for something a little more, with a little more sound, a little firmer feel. Not all players, but some players out there are looking for that, especially the guys that play our white hot inserts. There's still some of those out there. Those are hard to get out of players' bags.
That was mine.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Absolutely,
a great one. So, so we've really kind of catered this more to those types of players that are looking for that kind of sound and feel.
So, I also know, I mean, a lot of the guys I talk about with the glare, I mean, when they look at this black here, they don't pick up the glare. A lot of guys that, I know some tour, but even average players, they talk about the glare on the putter. This took the glare away.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about the backline of these, because one thing that you noticed is very prominent.
Yeah.
The black line, so the alignment aid on that.
It really pops, yeah. So the number 10 and the Bird of Prey, the R line is another one that's got a long front to back line. It's really easy to line up, really helps you just tell where you're pointed at address.
It's tell where you're pointing. Also, when you watch that stroke, you immediately see if it's going inside, going outside. Right.
Absolutely.
Right. So talk a little bit more about the insert on this, just because I'd love to bring this up because it's the #1 question I get about the sound. Yeah. Sound on an insert, because
very important.
I talk a lot about in articles I write and to my students about the sound of a putter, and that always blows their minds. They always look at me with this confused look. Right. I know the experts always talk about sound, and you hear good players talk about sound. Then I get one of my students coming in, and they can be good players, average players, and they say, okay, that completely blows up. They say, I hear sound in a driver, I hear sound even on irons, but putter, explain that a little bit if you would.
Well, so sound is important in putter for a couple of reasons. For one thing, it's directly linked to feel, right? So if someone they may equate what they're hearing to what they're feeling. So they may not think about sound in a putter, but they may think about feel. So that one feels softer, that one feels firmer. If it feels firmer, it's because it's louder, and if it feels softer, it's because it's quieter. Right. Generally, right? Okay. Most of what you feel is actually what you hear. Right. So that's important. The other thing about sound that's really important is to get it to match up to the speed the ball comes off the face. Sure. So particularly a better player can recognize when they hit a putt, before they even look up, they can tell, oh, that one's a little long, or it's going to be a little bit short of where I intended. Right. Just based on how it sounded, right? Oh, I hit that one a little firmer or not quite hard enough. If you can't get the sound to match the performance, how far that ball's rolling out, then a better player isn't going to like that. They're going to have to recalibrate, kind of, oh, I've really got to hit this one to make it sound loud enough, or when I hit one, it sounds like it's not going to get there, but it's actually long. So very important to
me, this is why when somebody has a putter for a while in their hand, and then they pick up a new putter, and they immediately, after a couple putts, even average players, they're like, I don't like this putter, it just feels funny. And it can be the exact same instrument, but if it sounds different, for sure, that's what they're equating to. And so that's why you guys did a little bit of a change in the insert here versus last year's Stroke Lab. Right.
So the insert, we've taken the grooves out, which gives you a little more surface area for more contact with the ball. We changed the material a little bit, and what we get is more sound and a little firmer feel.
No, I love it, and it actually is a big thing, because I liked last year's Stroke Lab, but honestly, it felt a little soft to me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I did, but I felt like and it was funny because I'd call you guys up and you say, no, it's the same, and I'd say, I feel like I gotta hit this harder. It was because it was a deader sound.
Absolutely.
And this one, you brought that back a little bit.
Absolutely.
That was definitely from the tour players, because First thing I picked up on it.
Yep.
So talk for a second a little bit, because you mentioned this when we talked about the other putter. Talk a little bit, because I have a lot of guys ask me this question also. Why is not the whole shaft graphite?
Right.
And you talked about, no, I promote a face balance putter.
Yep.
Okay. Trying to keep that putter face square as long as possible. Okay.
Right.
Talk about what the bend, and talk about a little bit what that means and what the bend is, because I've heard it called a gooseneck, a bend, double bend. I mean,
there are different ones. We use a double bend. Typically, there's also a single bend. But the idea behind them is you're trying to get the center line, the center axis of the shaft to intersect with the center of gravity, right? So if you have a center shafted putter, the shaft runs right into the center of the face or right into the CG, then it's going to balance face balance. But if you want the shaft to come into the heel, you have to do something with the shaft to get it there, and be able to maintain that face balance. So typically, if you had a straight shaft that came in to the heel like this, you'd have it toe down, right? You'd have some toe hang. So that's the idea. You get the center line of the shaft.
So if you extend this straight out, it basically
would run right through the
middle of the putter. Right through the middle of the putter.
Get it to line up. Yeah.
That's the face balance. So I think that's kind of interesting, because that's what a lot of people don't understand, that they'll go right through the center.
Exactly. And that's why we use the steel tip. Very difficult to make an all graphite shaft with a double bend. So having the steel tip allows us to do that.
Because there's no question, I know this from my personal fact, that when I get a heel putter up, a shaft that goes in the heel, I can line that putter up better, that face easier than a center shafted putter. Because when it's center shafted, I fight that. I fight the look of it. And the other thing that I see, golfers that typically use center shafted putters don't put the ball in the right spot. They'll put it on the inside or outside of that shaft, because it almost feels like they want to hit it off that shaft.
That's not right. In the way.
The shaft's in the way.
Right.
And I see that a lot. So that's why I put it in the heel,
get it out
with
of the way.
a bend in the shaft to get a face balance is the best of all worlds. I know it's pretty popular, but I get that question asked a lot. So basically, the black version of these was the next step up on the stroke lab. And you guys got a lot of the feedback on the tours, but the look of the putter, a little bit new insert in that, and it's very popular. The last thing I'd like to talk about for a few seconds is just how this is taking the tours by storm. Because this was pretty, even in my mind, it was pretty crazy. I mean, all of a sudden, I know we talked about the stroke lab and so on. All of a sudden, I was watching TV, and every tour, there they were. And I mean, and that's hard to do with putters.
And it's really cool because it's so visible, the technology, so you can tell immediately when you see a stroke lab shaft, right? So that's been great for us, having visible technology like that. But yeah, we've just seen the uptake month over month has gotten just more and more as it's built throughout the year.
In fact, it's led all the tours, hasn't it?
Yeah, we've had more. Well, we have more Odyssey putters in play than anyone. Anyone has on every tour. At every major, we have more wins than everybody, other than more than the second and third place combined. So, so we have and we have great years with Odyssey. Feels like every year on tour, but this year was really a special year. Stroke Lab is a big part of that, and we expect that to continue to build. Because what happens on tour players are just like regular players in that if they're playing with someone and they see them playing well with a new piece of equipment, they get interested really quickly, right? So whether that's a driver that someone's all of a sudden, you and I play together, and all of a sudden I come out one day and I'm hitting it past you, and you think, Luke can't hit it that far. Well, it's got to be his driver, right? Or you start, or we come out and all of a sudden I'm making everything, and you think, well, Luke's not that good a putter. What's he using, right? So tour players are the same way. When they play with each other all the time, and when they see one of their peers having success with something, they get interested real quickly. So that it tends to snowball. When you have a product that starts to get hot out there, it just kind of feeds on itself.
Okay, so and I said I was going to end it, but I lied to you. But I don't end it here. I tell my students that putting's close to half of the game. In fact, if you look at an average golfer, it's 42% of the game, so it's there. Three most important clubs in the bag to me. Number one's the putter, number two is the driver, number three is your wedge. One of your favorite wedges, okay.
I agree.
But I also tell them this, there's no reason why they can't be a tour professional type putter. I know you believe the same thing. Talk for a few seconds, so it's not just me preaching to them. I mean, talk to them. You can take and build half of your game with good technology and good stroke, and then talk to them a little about that, because you feel the same way I do. I know you do.
Yeah, well, it's true. So most people aren't going to be able to hit the ball 350 yards like a tour player, right? They don't have the physical strength to do that. Pretty much everybody is strong enough to be a good putter. You have to be able to work on your alignment. I think
Right.
that's very important. You've got to be able to get consistent with your alignment. You can do that with practice
Right.
and technique. And then you have to develop a consistent stroke.
Right.
But it doesn't even have to be a perfect stroke if it's consistent.
Right.
And then it's about repeatability. And again, it doesn't take a tremendous amount of coordination.
Right.
Right. I mean, there are some shots you see tour players hit that you just think, well, I never
There's no
could hit
way.
that
Right.
shot.
Right.
Right. But I don't think you ever see a tour player make a 15-foot putt and think, wow, you know,
Right.
what, I mean, what, I can't
you're
believe
exactly
they
right.
did that, right? And everyone's made a 15-footer,
Right.
right? They're just more consistent at it.
Right.
So they do it over and over, and their stroke is very repeatable. They're good at reading greens, things
Right.
like that. But it's the one part of the game you have a chance of being as good as a tour pro.
And that's exactly what I say.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because really, I mean, you guys have always done wonderful work in putters, but it seems like over the last few years, you've started putting a ton of work into the mechanics of it and how it
Right.
can help the
Trying to
stroke,
help the
and how it
stroke,
help
yep.
the alignment, and how it can even get more than that. It seemed
Yeah.
like you took it to the next level. It's
Yeah.
always been there. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had an Odyssey in my bag since high school. That's
Yeah.
a long time
Yeah.
ago. I mean, most of us have.
Yeah,
you know,
it's been 15 years
yeah.
or so, yeah.
But I can tell you right now that this in the last couple of years has
Yeah.
become, the technology is now matched with the instruction, you know,
Yeah.
especially instruction we put in. We talk a lot about that.
Right, yep.
To make the average player a great putter. Because
Yeah.
think about it, if the average players became great putters, they're gonna have good golf bags.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost half their game.
Yeah, that's the quickest way
Right.
to lower your scores too,
Right.
right? I mean, if you can pick up a couple strokes around on the green pretty quickly,
Right.
Probably more easily than in any other
No doubt
part of your
about
game.
it.
So
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time, and hopefully we
coming
can do
out.
the same thing next year.
for sure.